seeing lawfare waves on the British people with a whole new level of intensity. One moving room to make a story. Why one of it? Because it's where King John was made to sign the Magna Carta over 800 years ago. The Magna Carta is a document designed to shackle the power of tyrants. A document that makes it clear that everyone, including the king, who was the authority in the land at the time, is subject to the law. And the law is to be applied without fear or favour. A document that has inspired freedom-loving people around the world. A document to protect free-born English men and women from the abuse at the hands of tyrants. How far our nation? Now we looked at the architecture of a totalitarian state in LAWFARE, the film we launched on 1st of June. Two-tier policing, split-side conditions, controlled media, and essentially voices being crushed. These are just some of the pieces that the Conservatives put in place, working hard to build their utopian totalitarian state. New legislation, arrest for hurtful words, thought crime debanked, fired. This has all been the case for a few years now. And digital programming money, mass surveillance, social credit scores, 15-minute sittings, pay per mile to drive. Yes, the US infrastructure is already in place. Centrally controlled food source. All these things will follow soon. More tax, less freedom, and prison for anyone who objects. But right now, we have a new Labour government, and we could not have imagined how totalitarians use all institutions of the state to create the facade of things, due process and a democracy. It's all a facade. Well, in fact, they seek to destroy the very fabric of our society with their so-called progressive ideologies. Progressive ideologies that care not a bit for the oppressed, but use social justice as a veil for their hatred of the status quo. These totalitarians create division and chaos as the pretext to usher in their totalitarian utopia. Division and chaos, they both serve their purpose. And they create phantoms, imaginary photos. They turn the gullible against these imaginary demons. Why do they do this? Well, they have no power if they are scrutinised and exposed for what they are. They have no power if the people unite against it. And they are driven by three emotions. Three emotions lie at the heart of every totalitarian regime. And Keir Starmer's regime is no different. They're driven by lust, fear, and loathing. Lust. A lust for power. They will say and do anything to get it. They will say and do anything to keep it. This includes lying to us all. We won't take away the winter fuel allowance. We won't raise taxes. They get elected, they take away the winter fuel allowance from thousands and thousands of pensioners on as little as £13,000 a year.
But how can they don't have money to spare, and this year, if it's cold, they're going to be looking at the thermostat and wondering if they can pay their bills.
According to Labour's new account, they had to do this to stop the economy crashing.
That's
That is a barefaced lie. Just 1.5 billion was saved, while 21 billion pounds was voluntarily spent on public sector pay rises and foreign climate aid. When Ed Miliband excitedly promises to decarbonise the grid by 2030, again, he's been completely dishonest. As the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Darren Jones, innocently leaked some time ago, the true cost is going to be hundreds of billions of pounds with an almost impossible transformation of infrastructure.
There's a report, of course, commissioned by Labour Party back in 2017, which forecasts that thousands of pensioners could die, could literally freeze to death because of this change.
If we have the money, billions every year, to look after people who have given nothing to this country, why do we not have 1.2 billion to give money to people who have contributed to this system and who are now vulnerable and at the end of their life, they're going into that chapter of their life?
They removed energy price cap and prices jump by 10% everywhere. And if you've worked hard, Free Gear Kia, he's had to declare more than £100,000 of freebies and gifts, more than any other MP in our country. And they say they've just found a £22 billion black hole in the nation's finances.
We have found a £22 billion black hole. And that's what this is all about, making sure we fix the foundations. And then having done that we can build a better future that pensioners and so many other people voted for in this election.
But they knew about the state of finances long before the elections. They just forgot to mention their plans. And when asked to spell out the details of the claimed black hole, they refuse. They're not telling. They won't. The dog ain't my homework. Ridiculous. They're not hiding the political choices they've made. They're actually proud of them. They can't use your taxes, remember our taxes, that's whose tax it is yours. They can't use them to help freezing pensioners this winter. But they can choose to send $3 billion a year of your tax to Ukraine to drag us towards war with Russia, instead of pursuing peace. They choose to send $6.4 billion a year of your taxes to support asylum and illegal migration. That's according to the Institute for Fiscal Studies. That's up 50% from last year and 6 times higher than in 2018. What's it going to look like next year or the year after? That's right, $6.4 billion in support of unilateral cultural suicide.
Angela Rayner has announced that she's abandoning plans to give British people, in brackets, who have paid their stamp or taxes, close brackets, priority council housing. We're going to allow migrants to get that. If you thought that wasn't bad enough, I'd love your response to this, because this sent me today quite literally over the edge. If you're a terrorist and you wanted to get social housing, you were going to be banned under Labour's manifesto. That's been reversed as well today. So what we're saying then is we're going to allow millions of people to come into this country and take away homes or whatever from British people who need them. And that is not racist to make that comment. That is an absolute proven fact.
It is a proven fact, and that, amongst other reasons, is why people from all those deprived communities across the United Kingdom have been protesting against immigration for the last few weeks.
They choose to give away $8 billion of your taxes on climate aid. That's giving money to other countries to help them for their so-called climate challenges. $8 billion of your money can't keep pensioners warm. They choose to spend trillions, yes, trillions of your taxes to pursue their own net zero wet dream, exporting our carbon emissions to China and India as we commit unilateral industrial disarmament and drive millions and millions into fuel poverty. Don't take my word for it. This is a co-founder of Greenpeace on climate change.
I say not only is carbon dioxide good, it is essential, and it's a good thing that we are putting some more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere because it was running low before we came along. If we had definitive proof that CO2 was causing serious problems and we could prove it, don't you think they would write that down on a piece of paper somewhere so people could read it? They don't have definitive proof, period. I am firmly of the belief that the future will show that this whole hysteria over climate change was a complete fabrication.
And lastly, they'll smash those gangs that are transporting illegal migrants into the UK, costing us a $6.4 billion a year.
Round up, detain and deport illegal immigrants. That's what new Home Secretary Yvette Cooper has just promised to do. Well, do you believe the woman who held up a sign saying refugees welcome, closed the Bibi Stockholm and scrapped Rwanda on day one?
Do you believe it? They fear their loyalty to the World Economic Forum and its globalist and totalitarian agenda being exposed and revealed.
You have to choose now between Davos or Westminster.
Davos.
Why?
Because Westminster is too constrained.
They fear their incompetence and failures being exposed. Immigration policy, energy policy, foreign policy, every policy is a failure. They fear losing power. Out of fear of what might happen if they don't.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Phil Hutchinson and I am the Superintendent for Greater Manchester Police based in Oldham.
Salam alaikum. I'm speaking to you today going to reinforce my commitment to protect every member of our Merseyside community.
Of course, cowering in the face of Sharia-loving fanatics does not placate them. It emboldens morons. Our government's appeasement is like feeding the crocodile and hoping it will eat them last. I think Churchill said that. And hiding things, covering things up. That doesn't solve our nation's problems. It's obvious to most of us by now, covering things up lets the problems grow and grow and grow. They've done that for the last 40 years with Pakistani rent gangs for the sake of community cohesion. And they're doing it now with mass migration and the Islamisation of the United Kingdom. But lying to cover things up doesn't create community cohesion. It does the absolute opposite. It stokes anger in British people.
There was no growth in our economy in July, and yet we continually get pumped with mass migration. I'm just going to pose this question. If migration makes us richer, why aren't we getting... Maybe they should do something about the problem, instead of covering it up.
And the population know they're being ignored. And worse than being ignored, they're being condemned. This time, by a Prime Minister. How on earth did he end up with this job? Anyone who thinks mass immigration might not be such a great idea. Well, Tutik here, he's branded all of you as far-right thugs and Nazis, prejudged you as criminals, and his stormtroopers will come and arrest you shortly. So-called leaders is loathing. They don't believe in the nation state. They believe in open borders and cheap labour for global corporations. Their loyalties lie with the World Economic Forum. Tutik here has made that pretty clear already. They loathe on... They don't want their...
Matter, refugees' lives matter, except old people's lives don't seem to matter. Why on earth?
Do our so-called leaders actually want to solve the problems, or do they want to use the problems? Problems they created, by the way, to take more power and take away more of your freedoms. You see, these Marxists weren't elected because British people wanted to be governed by Marxists. They were only elected because of the Tories spent 14 years failing everyone. They'd failed the British people, failing to be remotely conservative, failing to lower taxes, failing to control our borders, failing to protect our freedoms. And now in power, these Marxists want a state of perpetual chaos and division that they create, divide and rule. There must be an ending. There must be a reason to take action against these enemies of the state, and that action will always take away your freedom.
Knife attack on a property in Hart Street. There are reports of it involving children, and I can now confirm that some of the patients have been taken to Alder Hay Children's Hospital, so that would suggest that those reports have indeed been accurate.
Here in the UK, 2 children have been killed in what police called a ferocious stabbing at a dance class in Southport in the northwest of England.
How many more children died on the street? Leading, how many more children? Minor. Go on!
So what actually happened in Southport? A A man of Rwandan descent murdered 3 beautiful girls and stabbed 8 more children and 2 more adults. How did the government react? What did the machinery of the totalitarian state do? Well, you and I would hope something like this would get the government to stop and reflect. Why have these girls been murdered? Why is there so much knife crime? Why is there so much rape? Why are these so-called asylum seekers flocking to our shores? And what values and cultures do they bring with them? Are their values compatible with ours? Are all cultures of equal merit? You and I would hope the government would ask why the peasants, that's us, you and me, why are the peasants revolting? No, don't be ridiculous. Reflecting is not a popular pastime of communists and tyrants. Admitting they're wrong is not a key competence of these tyrants. Apologising for destroying our nation, it's not going to happen. What this government actually did, well, firstly, they did everything they possibly could to cover up the basic facts, what you and I would call the truth. They said young girls at Taylor Swift dance studio not be terrorists. They said he was from Cardiff. Axel Ruddock Yabana, yes, he's as Welsh as the daffodils. They looked for evidence he was mentally ill. I can help with that one. Yeah, he was mentally ill. Anyone who commits a crime like that is mentally ill. Exactly what kind of mental illness? And they published a picture of him, looking like an innocent little 12-year-old, and reported he was a choir boy. They made him the victim. They did all this.
It is good, but it's also bad when people are using it in a way that cause a riot, threats, intimidation. I think the government is really going to think long and hard about what they're going to do with social media and what are they going to put through Parliament as a bill tonight. Misinformation is dangerous. No misinformation or threats or intimidation should be allowed to be carried out on social media platforms.
That's their words. How absurd, how foolish and how dangerous. And Kia, how is this working for you, managing the information? Do the government really believe their actions will help build a peaceful, prosperous and patriotic society? What about a cohesive society? Or are they awful? How tragic. They will use anything as an opportunity to implement their totalitarian agenda and crush anyone who speaks out against it. As we've said, these Marxists want a state of perpetual chaos. There must be an enemy to mobilise the population against, an enemy to divert attention.
What I meant by that was that the riots, I think, were symbolic of a broken society. They were far right in the main, but underneath that, I think there was a societal black hole, a breaking of our society, which we need to end. I'm convinced that the answer to it is delivery in government. So the best argument against the far right, best argument against the easy answer, is to deliver, to bring about the change that we promised we'd bring about.
That's right. Two-tier Kia seems to acknowledge there are troubles. He says the solution is delivering in government, which suggests the cause of the problem is failure in government. I agree, Comrade Kia. And he says the far right, whoever they are, is the snake oil of easy answers. I think it'd be more accurate to say the use of the term far right to label concerned British citizens is the snake oil of lazy government. And any anger, which he labels far right, is a consequence of failure in government. You can't blame the Tories forever, Comrade Kia. And listen to this.
It doesn't matter what apparent motivation there is. This is violence, it is not protest. It doesn't matter what the motivation is.
That's right. He doesn't care what happened. He doesn't care. Okay? But it gives him the excuse to crush the dissent that terrifies him. The dissent of the average British man and woman. And by the way, we still haven't been told anything about the motivation of the Southport killer. What could it possibly have been?
Good honest men are going to jail for saying that integration failed. So do you think that we see. Starmer's a tyrant, but we won't be silent, 'cause he threatens his people. Starmer is evil, but we won't be silent, 'cause he threatens his people. Starmer is evil.
Patronise the entire British people in the process. What two-tier Kia and his cabal of apparat chicks did next is truly cheap.
You know, everyone was angry because of what had happened. Those 3 little girls, the whole world was angry. My husband was then saying, you know, the government keep letting them come in onto our borders. You know, kids are getting raped, filmed, what followed, things like that. You know, they're taking all our NHS, they're getting rehomed. You know, everyone coming in is just being given everything, and then things like this are happening in our country.
So what is it exactly that your husband has been accused of?
On the Saturday after Southport, he just put a status up saying the Daresbury next, which is a hotel close to where we live, which have got immigrants and asylum seekers in there who were getting rehomed. So he went inside. No shot would happen, people will start rioting and stuff, but he didn't put that, he just put it's going to be the Daresbury next. Then people commented underneath his post, and he just put it's the government's fault if they stop letting them in the borders, all this wouldn't be happening.
Okay, so he was being vocal on the immigration issue?
Yeah, he went there for
ill. He felt it, like it touched him emotionally, what was going on. When he was there, he was waving his flag. He didn't say anything racist. He wasn't shouting abuse, he wasn't swearing. There's actually numerous videos of the police telling Jack he has to put his flag down, he's not allowed to hold his company's flag. Jack saying to the police, listen, I'm not here for no violence, I haven't came for violence, I came for a peaceful protest.
The reason why he was arrested was because the police blockade, or whatever they call it, where they all have the shields, they ran and pushed his mum over, Julie, his mum, she's 68-year-old, they pushed her over, trapped on the floor. They were whacking him with a shield, sprayed him with CS gas, and he was saying, look, my mum's on the floor, I just need to get to my mum. When he was after he just got arrested, when he was being held round the back of the Bluebell, the police officers were saying, but I don't even know why you've been arrested, because his mum were there as well. Just a normal police officer. They were saying, I'll ring the inspector and see if we can let you go, because I don't think it's serious enough to be arrested. It's like he said, if it were mine, well, mine would have been the exact same.
Obviously we went home and we thought everything was fine, because obviously Jack didn't do nothing violent at all, and then that's when exactly a week later the police had knocked on the door, and then that's when he got arrested.
So they started booting my door through. My little girl was screaming in the garden, screaming. Funny, they wouldn't tell me, and I said, have you got a warrant? And they said, we don't need to give you one. And I said, my back door's open and my back gate, you can go down there, stop booting my door through. So at that point, when and took the kids' iPads and stuff.
Did he get?
He got 5 years. A year taken off, and they took into consideration his health and his mental health, and then they gave him 32 months.
He was sentenced to 3 years, 4 months, and also a 10-year criminal behaviour order.
You're not going to see your partner lay now for 3 years, 4 months. No, how do you think you're going to cope with that?
I'm absolutely gutted. Gutted, Sammy.
It's broke a family up. Like, it's his daughter. On our first Christmas, he's missing out on our second birthday. Like,
she's just like a little child. She's usually a bubbly little girl. She's just not herself. She's not the same little girl. She just like, she sits and just stares into space.
So with the most recent atrocity in Southport, and regardless of the murderer's motivation in this particular case, it was the last straw. People were angry, not surprisingly. Not just about the Southport murderers, but about years of having their legitimate concerns about mass immigration being completely ignored. They're angry about two-tier policing and politicised judiciaries. But Labour cannot afford to have pesky voters asking questions about the consequences of open borders, mass immigration, and the incompatibility of some ideologies of our culture. So they create a different story. They turn everyone's attention to their imaginary monster, the far right, the fictional dragon they pretend to slay.
There's a lot of people that have branded people like Lee as a far-right racist thug. Is that true?
No, definitely not. Well, ever.
It's like there's actually an article about. They kind of just put me down with something that I haven't actually complied with. I haven't said that I am this type of person.
The last thing you would be is racist. And like every person, I think you should have kind of loyalty to your country. And if there's something wrong with your country, why can't you speak about it?
And more fanciful than that, they blame the English Defence League.
Missiles were thrown at riot officers and a police van was set on fire by a large crowd of protesters believed to be supporters of the English Defence League.
We don't know where they streamed in from, but they're believed to be supporters of the English Defence League.
How many people work in Woking? There's over 50,000 apparatchiks working in the Home Office alone. And no one told Two-Tier Kia that the EDL disbanded a decade ago. It hasn't been here for a decade. No one in MI5 reminded him that, 90% of the people that they're watching on the terror watch list, well, they follow Islam.
France and other countries. And I'm worried about the far right because it's the sort of snake oil of the easy answer. I utterly condemn the far right thuggery we've seen this week. It is organised. Thugs who thought that they could get away with causing chaos.
But this deception is not without consequence, Kia.
The following
Muslim militias out on the streets. You lied to them. You created this facade of this far-right English Defence League roaming the streets. But at least people can see that there's a militia there waiting.
He has caused this divide between everyone. He has labelled us ADL, far-right racists, but I think people are angry. These poor lassies with someone's babies, and I think that's why people are thinking it could have happened to our kids.
And anyone who is even remotely concerned about mass immigration and its impact on our way of life, will channel in Naz Sharp's retweet, we'd all better shut up for the sake of diversity. Of course, the media clapped along with all this. They know there's no fun. On the 27th. Deflecting works, of course. Before the population could blink, and without them even realising, the headlines and the news were all focused on the imaginary monster, the imaginary far right. And everyone had stopped talking about the slaughter of innocent kids. It hasn't been mentioned again. It was totally forgotten. It was a successful government ploy. For me personally, they're working to blame me for the trouble in the streets.
What we've heard you from a lot of the far-right figures is that these protests that we've been seeing over the last week are not about extremists, they're about ordinary people just having their say. Here's an example, and it's not the only one, from the man known as Tommy Robinson.
And probably the most influential instigator of all is Tommy Robinson.
For this to be hijacked by people lying on sunbeds in Cyprus.
It's been coordinated by a man who's just fled England.
The English Defence League, give me their phone number, give me their email. I mean, the fella who's associated with most is on a sunbed in Cyprus. And Tommy Robinson. He hates Europe, but there he is enjoying the European sunshine and stirring up poison and hate in this country.
There's no truth in that. Bring the case against me. Bring the evidence. The evidence shows the total opposite. Not once did I call for violence, ever. I asked people not to be violent.
Lads, you've got to remain calm. Look at our events in London, totally peaceful, totally calm, didn't matter. We were under attack by the media and politicians, by all of them. As far-right, racist, hooligans, all these things. I told you appeal for calm. Try to remain calm. Just an appeal for calm, man. Bring the numbers, bring the noise, but don't bring any violence, man. You can come in, galvanise the country. That's what we need to do, unite people. No, yeah, the level of violence, it won't work. Anyway, stay safe. Stop the violence, man.
And to the men committing the violence, lads, those individual police officers who are coming out doing a difficult enough job have got families at home. They're ordinary people, okay? A peaceful revolution is brewing in Great Britain. A peaceful revolution. Now, why are the British public angry? I want to pause and take a moment to answer that question. I want to take a moment to help Kia and his cabal of apparatus chicks, because he seems to know there are troubles, he admits it. There's troubles on our streets. I fear he may have misdiagnosed the cause.
Well, it was publicised as being a protest against the lack of government action to deal with the increasing amount of stabbings and knife crime across the country, but in particular against the awful, atrocious, horrific, brutal murder of the 3 primary school age girls in Southport in their play group, which
battery at 100%.
So many other people, I was incredibly I went there in that spirit, intending to attend and did attend a peaceful protest. Quarter to 8, in the evening. The police, the riot police, decided to just charge on the crowd. There was absolutely no forewarning, there was no announcement by the police, like on a megaphone or anything like that, to say, can you clear the area, can you move, because we're going to start arresting people. They didn't do that, they just started arresting people completely out of the blue, suddenly, without any notice whatsoever. And I turned round and I saw a police officer arresting someone. And then the police officer came towards me and arrested me. And I was handcuffed. I was handcuffed behind my back.
So you were arrested for standing in the street?
Basically, yeah. Well, absolutely, that was it. That was why I was arrested. And I did nothing. Didn't resist arrest.
They're just arresting people for no reason. I literally get really...
I think this has been going on for a long time, with escalating concerns over rampant knife crime and stabbings and violence by some of the migrants and asylum seekers that is not being covered by the press at all because it doesn't fit their narrative. Censorship, fear and intimidation is the tactics of a dictatorship. It's the same as any dictatorial regime in the world. If you look at Venezuela, what's been happening there, the way they control their population, they send people to prison because of their political beliefs. This government isn't acting any differently from that. It may not be as extreme, as that, but they're certainly headed in that direction.
We already know people are angry about the authorities covering up years and years of child rape gangs, mainly Pakistani Muslims. They are angry about two-tier policing. They're angry about politicised judges. They are angry when they see the police cowering before Islam in the name of diversity. Let's have a look at what else is going on.
Some of them, they're not screaming. It's like they wanted to be raped, you see. She also claims you see no more
like
crying.
She's enjoying it, you know, even though she isn't, but it's like she's enjoying it.
What about the consequences of what you're doing in terms of how that affects the person that's raped?
Yeah, the consequences, we look at that all the time, you know, because it happens, she might scream, you know, people might wake up. A lot of people.
I'm not just talking about, I'm talking about the emotional effect, the physical effect it has.
Yeah.
About regretting what you've done to the girl? I also do regret about it, because if she fell pregnant, what will be that baby's father? Who will be that?
Migrants are raping and killing, and more we're the rape capital of Europe. Might be a reason people are angry. Wasting money, killing pensioners.
Some breaking news. 142 small boats crossed the channel yesterday on Easter Sunday. That now brings the total for this year of 5,435 channel crossings since the beginning of the year. That's well in excess of the 3,790 odd who crossed the channel by small boat at this point in 2023.
We're getting daily updates of the numbers during the COVID pandemic, and actually that's an astonishing amount. Over 400.
Population of Glasgow, Cardiff and Nottingham. There are 1.7 million who are unemployed. They're not even looking for work. They're costing you every patron in this country. That might be a reason people are angry. Paedophile migrants. What about this?
You have been talking very graphically to some 13-year-old girls. How long have you been? Text it. You're asking us.
Observations. You sent some pictures of your penis. Yes?
No, me, no.
3 months. You won't read them. Do you think it's okay to say that you want to eat and kiss a child's pussy? Do you? You want to get a child to your house, a 14-year-old girl you want to rape and abuse.
You'd think they'd be on their best behaviour, but they're busy online.
From the residents that live in the Daresbury, family members had rang the police and stuff. The police had come, they'd move them on, wouldn't take the phones or anything off them. People were getting followed from the Aldi by the illegal immigrants that are supposedly living in the Daresbury Hotel. But they're saying that there's no men or anything in that hotel, it's just all women and children. But,
have you ever seen any men?
Yeah, but the whole of our area know that there's men in there.
There's, for many years, been a lot of complaints about the hotel, about the immigrants that are staying there, the crime rate.
Yeah.
There's also been reports that children as young as 12, 13 and 14 have been getting followed and harassed. What do you think to that?
I was talking to a couple of ladies there who were telling me that a daughter had been exposed, and one were having a pee in bush down the lake, and it was showing his bits to a 6-year-old daughter. She reported it, nothing got done about it. Another lady...
And you get locked up for tweets. If you object to any of this and speak out online in anger or with you.
About an hour later, a massive bang, and I was like, what's that? So I started coming down the staircase from the loft, and another big bang that was in the door flew up, and all these police came walking up the stairs with the tears, tears are out, guns behind your back, blah blah blah. And so I went with them. As I walked outside, there was about 8 or 9 coppers. They were everywhere. The warrant was for inciting racial hate on social media. I actually thought I'd walk into court, he would get laughed at, and I would come back, I'd be back out of court. I spoke to the duty solicitor. So you are guilty, so I advise you. You're guilty of sharing these pictures.
So to get straight, you said 4 weeks in prison for sharing 3 memes.
Yeah, that weren't even illegal. I hadn't even broke the law. It turns out now that I haven't even broke the law. Had a good job, a good woman.
Do you think you'll ever get a good job like that back?
No, definitely not. No, I've got this on my record now, haven't I? I'll be lucky if I even get clearance and get my vetting back for the job that I didn't do.
The government is imprisoning people for their tweets. That might be another reason people are angry.
Our prisons are on the point of collapse. So today,
They tweet us because the prisons are full, so they have to release thousands of prisoners early. That might be a reason people are angry. And he's made space in the jail. Not enough space for the BBC's latest paedophile superstar, Hugh Edwards. Busy buying on the inside. He should be. But no such concern shown for the right-thinking people of Britain tweeting their disgust at successive government failures. Every tyrant knows once you have created your imaginary enemy, you need to instill fear in those in the population who are gullible enough to trust you. The number of people who still trust you and your government, Keir, is falling very fast.
Sir Keir Starmer's approval rating has plummeted to its lowest level on record amid a growing cronyism scandal. The new poll shows almost 2/3 of voters think the government is more interested in serving its own interests than those of ordinary people.
More people trust us now. I know he's watching it, which is great. And so, in collusion with far-left activists like Nick Lowles of Hope Not Hate and its cabal of Labour politicians, Hope Not Hate. It's a good name, Hope Not Hate. But they appear to me to be driven by hate, not hope. Well, in collusion with them and the legacy media, the story is pushed that 100 riots are planned across the country. It's all a lie.
And this was a
There was no riots planned. 100 demonstrations weren't even planned. Nick Lowell thought it was clever and the lie was funny. The government knew it was a lie. Hope Not Hate knew it was a lie. The papers knew it was a lie. They didn't stop to consider whether it might be. But the lie was not without consequence.
He's not doing Cerritos. Yeah, that's
I'm sure the police will be all over those machete-wielding thugs.
I mean, we didn't put the others that came out with machetes, knives, masked up. What happened to them? There's no, them are not in the paper addressed as racist folks. It's just they portray us to be bad people.
And Lowell's tweeted about this. See, that wasn't true either. That stirred up racial hatred. We're born. At 10 o'clock, must get breaking. Everyone should be here. The controlled disinformation. By the way, Mark Rowley, if you're still in the police when this film goes out, when are you going to arrest Comrade Lowles for spreading false rumours and inciting racial hatred? So Lowles doesn't get arrested for his lies. But Bernadette Sposroff, a Cheshire businesswoman who sent an erroneous tweet about the Southport murder, she was arrested. She was held overnight. Then not released, but she was bailed pending further inquiries, which have since been cleared.
I had expressed my own views on the state of the country and its failure to protect innocent citizens, and that is still legal. But it's very clear that a vocal part of our society wants the opinions of ordinary people like you and like me suppressed. They say they support free speech, but they mean only the speech they agree with. They say they support dialogue, but only the dialogue that agrees with their worldview. And they say they want equality, but they don't mean for people who think differently to them.
Now, we've had nearly a year of violent anti-Semitic hate marches on the streets of Britain. The legacy media describes them as largely peaceful. Citizen journalist footage suggests that's a lie.
The only solution is jihad by the armies of the Muslim country.
Listen carefully to what this guy here in the middle of the video says in a moment. Did you hear that? We are ready to kill you all, is what the man said. Let's have a listen to the rest of it. Take a look at how the police respond. The police stand there and do absolutely nothing.
You are racist, all of you. Take your hands. Take your hands. Don't do that. Don't do that for me. You're messed up in your head, my friend. And you are nothing to do. All of you should do it.
mass marches were largely peaceful, just like this was a largely peaceful social services calling in Leeds.
Jesus. There I am.
Roman Egypt. Peaceful, just like this was a largely peaceful chat between armed police at Manchester Airport and a largely peaceful Muslim family. By the way, these
immediately, every one of them officers needs to be arrested immediately. If not, then we will go to Plan B and you will see big protests, I promise you. Protests like you've never seen before.
the Muslims focused on finding the person who leaked the CCTV footage. Total insanity. Have the Islamic thugs who battered the police on camera, have they been charged yet? No, they haven't. And yeah, the Hamas marches were largely peaceful, just like the Notting Hill Carnival was largely peaceful. Here's the legacy media's headline on that.
Last hour, they've given us an update that they've made are not live threats.
For the Leeds riots, Manchester Airport thugs, or Nick Knowles. I wonder why. And no swift justice for the killers of Notting Hill Carnival. That was just a cultural celebration, of course. So we know.
During COVID lockdowns, Sir Keir Starmer, now our Prime Minister, rushed to take the knee to express his solidarity with Black Lives Matter after they'd already injured 30 police officers during their protests, after they'd broken the law with the COVID lockdowns. And Keir Starmer rushed to take the knee. He said, there are legitimate grievances here. This is about racial injustice, because rioting, on the left, remember, is the voice of the unheard. This time around, the same Keir Starmer, despite us seeing videos on social media of Muslim gangs beating up white British kids on the street, walking around with knives and machetes, this time around Keir Starmer said, this is all far right, this is not legitimate, it's criminality, get these people into prison as quickly as possible. There was no discussion of legitimate grievances, there was no discussion of legitimate protests.
Now Two-Tier Keir appears to have ordered the stormtroopers to grab and arrest anyone, literally anyone, who protests or tweets against the government and what it's doing. Obviously except the Hamas-loving protesters, anti-Semites, members of the Muslim militia. None of them.
When it comes to talking, if you're involved in disorder on that day, we will identify you, we will arrest you, and we will put you before the court.
National figures show 1,165 people arrested, 703 charged. Those figures, again, will increase.
Have the police made any high-quality videos of them arresting Muslims carrying machetes in the streets? Or men fighting? No, they haven't. They saved their
job is to look for this material and then follow up.
Repost, retweet, or original content that could theoretically incite whatever the government deems to be racial hatred. And if you engage with or repost that content, you are deemed so dangerous for society that they will arrest and prosecute you.
So this is another man being sentenced to prison for a Facebook post that he made. And in this video,
The judge tells you what he posted and how long he's getting in prison, and I'll let you make your own mind up. Have a look at this.
You went on to say that you did not want your money going to immigrants who, quote, rape our kids and get priority. Given the life of Riley, off the tax us hard-working people earn, when it could be put to better use. Come over here, with no work visa, no trade to their name, and sit down and DOS. And then there's more people being put out homeless each year. They get top band priority on housing and many more reasons. This offence is so serious that an immediate custodial sentence is unavoidable. The sentence that I pass has been reduced by 1/3 to reflect your guilty plea. The sentence is one of 20 months imprisonment.
Every tyrant knows you can't run the totalitarian state unless the judges do what you tell them to. In Russia, not... doing what you're told. Honours.
Let's be very clear, this has not been about protest, this has been about violence and thuggery.
Bewildered. That's what she said.
Which you are a resident. You must be punished for what you did. The only mitigation, as I have indicated, is your guilty plea. Accordingly, the sentence is reduced to one of 2 years and 8 months imprisonment. I appreciate that will fall hard upon you as a senior citizen.
Most of these cases that I've been reading about, for example, the case of this poor man, David Springer, a 61-year-old who's been working as a train driver for 42 years, who's now taking care of a sick wife, who has been sentenced to jail because they wanted to make a sacrificial lamb out of him. They wanted to set an example to the rest of the UK. And that message was very clear. That message was, you don't get to disagree with us. You don't get to be present at these protests because David Springer did absolutely nothing. And we have video footage of that. He was there. He, according to the reports, maybe shouted something at the police while boo-hoo. Is that worth 18 months in jail? A mother of five... committed the crime of, according to the government, inciting racial hatred because he posted one post on...
Take another look at some of the judges who sent people to jail for hurting words. That's right, rape, steal and stab. Let's just put it down to cultural differences. It's community service for you, lads. Fence painting, picking up litter for a few hours. So tell me how our judiciary are not politicised, how they're not compromised and a tool of the state. And to the judges, I hope you get the honours of being promises. Tin pot, despot, Kia. Your political judiciary might be another reason people are angry. Maybe.
This isn't just two-tier policing. This is a two-tier political and social system that is routinely prioritising racial, sexual and gender minorities at the expense of the majority.
Now every tyrant knows the media is the tyrant's best friend. Or the media that...
I would prefer the conventional media. It's got many great aspects to these places, the way people interact with each other, but in politics it's a bit of a pain.
That's right. They call it misinformation. You and we call it the truth. And the legacy media, they've been a cheerleader for mass migration agendas of successive governments. They've continually supported their open border policies. Just look at this.
والله الشعور وقت ما حبست أنا شهر كامل بالسجن حسيت إنه أنا لو كنت بسوريا أو بالأردن كان أحسن لي صراحة أنا كنت لأنه ظلم وظلم وحبست شهر.
That's right. The people held up to us. But in the interests of balance, were the legacy media unlucky to choose the migrants as poster boys who turned out to be rapists? No, they weren't unlucky. The British aren't stupid. We all know people affected by these rapes. The unchecked illegal migrants you are actively ferrying into our once green and pleasant land. They're raping our daughters. They're killing, they're murdering.
So tell me about university. How did that start?
I only decided last minute that I wanted to go to university on my gap year a few months before.
it was a very last minute decision. I just felt like I wanted a little bit of a change of plans in my life. About
how long had you been at university before the attack happened?
2 months.
So not long.
Yeah, new city, new lifestyle. I'd first met this man, or seen this man, way back in the city centre. He'd followed me for a very long time before the attack.
Okay, so he'd followed you for a long time. Then what happened?
So he just kind of grabbed me on the street and just kind of pulled me into the churchyard.
So he pulled you into the church?
Yeah.
And then what happened?
And then he kind of pushed me against, it was like a concrete block, and then just kind of pulled down my underwear.
I suppose it's every parent's worst nightmare. She's very innocent, very trusting, and I was told that I just needed to step back as a dad. You want to take control, and you want to get in there and fix all the problems. But on this occasion, I had to step back and trust the police.
And how long was it before you got to trial?
It was 6 months, exactly 6 months from the day he was remanded.
And did you go in and give evidence?
I did.
That must have been difficult. How was that?
It was difficult. It was especially difficult because I had my final exams for uni on the same week. University. At the same time.
When the court case was going on, I booked all the time off. My intention was to go there for every day of the case, but I was pretty much told do not come by the police and the barrister due to the severity of it. My daughter closed down, didn't want any help. She was going to deal with this herself. It was very tough on her. She had lots of breakdowns. We had to drive up to where she was many times, at 2, 3 in the morning to help her.
So tell me about the rapist, where we're living.
So this is what really gets to me, is he was staying in a hotel and it's not far from a student village. Now...
So he was living very close by to the university?
Walking distance. The people that are coming illegally, but it says it, they're illegal, they've broken the law when they set foot on our shores. They've broken our laws. So at that point they should then be detained and processed as criminals. But I don't believe they are. I believe they're being sent to hotels, being given money and free rein to just wander freely, throughout the community.
He can apply for parole in just 8 years. If he comes out and he's not deported and he's going to be living here, what do you plan to do?
I plan on leaving the country within 7 years.
You just want to be away from him?
Yeah, I don't want to be out in the same.
Do you think he should be deported?
Yeah.
She's changed. Our relationship has changed. I don't think it'll ever be the same
How is it
as it was. We were quite close. We would talk quite a lot. I was always there to support her and help her and guide her. But now, I can message her and I can go maybe a week or 2 weeks before she'd respond to that message. We'd play games, we won't play games anymore. I'll call and she won't answer. She's a lot more distant.
How do you feel as a parent when Sophie leaves the house now?
Awful. It's really tough. So she does have a job, she does go to work part-time, and she does have to walk from where she's living to this job. And she can be walking home later at night now. It's not, we've got to find my friends so I can see where she is and when she's leaving. And my heart, I've had to stop looking at it because if I try and get an early night, because I've got to be up really early with work, and I find my friends and I can see that she's still at work, I'll then stay up and I'll follow her all the way home, and it's heart-wrenching because then you'll see the dot stop. And straight away your mind goes to the absolute worst.
Is this an isolated case? Was this just one migrant in one city who has been housed and fed and paid for by the British public who's decided to rape an English woman walking home? Or is this happening widespread across the country on migrants housed in hotels? Kia, maybe this is... in the UK and search migrant, refugee, rape, and it will bring up cases. We simply don't have time to go through every... Just refugees and asylum seekers are literally raping in every single town and city across the UK. Kia, maybe these are the It's the fact that one of the migrants... The community... He was 14 years old. What checks did you do on him? You put him straight in school with our daughters. So people in Bournemouth might be... with knives, and later he murdered a 21-year-old in Bournemouth city centre. A Royal Marine was brutally murdered by this asylum seeker. Then the Home Office do their checks. Then we find out he wasn't 40, he was 19. He was a fully grown adult male. You put him in school with children. Then we find no checks, with no vetting, was put in school with parents in Bournemouth. People in Bournemouth are not angry because they're far right or they're racist. It's justified anger because you're failing them time and time again. It's a reality. This is justified anger because of government failures, but they cover it all up. They don't want to talk about their failures. Just blame it on the imaginary far right. No Keir Starmer, no the establishment. What brought these people into our towns and cities? Doesn't mean causation. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Let's have a look at the statistics for Sweden since they opened their borders with rape as well. Literally the 1.7 million unemployed and economically inactive migrants here right now, costing £8.5 billion a year. Anyone out there working right now?
What about the one who rapes a child? What about the one who drinks alcohol? Do the man. This person, one person that commits all of these sins, he commits all of these sins on a daily basis, but he prays is better in the eyes of Allah than the one that doesn't commit any of these sins but doesn't pray.
Then we also follow this. If you accept it, then you're part of it. You don't accept it, but you have to dismantle it.
He said, "O tribes of kuffar, O tribes of disbelievers, get out of his way. For we have come to strike you a God's revelation, a strike that removes the heads from the shoulders." Allah says, we will strike terror into the hearts of the kuffar. We will strike terror into the hearts of those who disbelieve. Why? Because they associate partners with Allah. Because they associate partners with Allah, that for which Allah never gave them no authority.
You got your democracy, we got our own Sharia. You got your own free mixing, we got our own nikah. No, we got our own economic system. We got our own foreign policy. We got our own deen.
Alcohol will be banned, drugs will be banned, pornography will be banned, gambling will be banned, but the money saves.
Think about knife crime on our streets. He says nothing and does nothing about Islamic terrorism, jihad, Islamic courts, female genital mutilation, misogyny. He can't tell you what... Anyone who disagrees with him. Remember how they hate scrutiny? They can't allow their... Come on in. How was your trip? Have a 5-star...
Put in the safe cell. In the last 48 hours,
The wing that they put them on was 90% Muslim. Both of them, one's been attacked in the shower. They took the shower exhaust, battered him. When he managed to get back to his cell, his other mate had been completely battered as well. They're making targets of the lads. They did some damage to them as well.
That's right. Tutir Kia is putting the unhelpfully outspoken citizens in prisons run by Islamic gangs. He's literally offering them up. Any concerned parents, any concerned British citizens, he put a target on them.
That, you know, any right-wing, far-right protester landing up in jail, they can expect a pretty cold reception from what he says are Asian gangs inside prison who will be looking out for them.
Keir told everyone they're far-right extremists. Their blood is on your cowardly hands, Keir. You disgust me. You disgust Britain. Now, every tyrant knows they can process people more quickly, and that's getting at the side. If these irritating political dissidents, if they just think so they pressurise them. People who have never been in trouble with the law before, and who shouldn't be before the law now. They shouldn't even been in court. They frighten these people into pleading guilty. It's easy for you, they say. Just plead guilty. It's easy for your family. Just say you did it.
His solicitor obviously stood up and said, like, what do you have on him? Do you know what I mean? He hasn't done anything wrong, but like the judge, he just didn't want to hear it. He was just shaking his head.
Obviously, some people have now been sentenced. You're partner Lee to be one of them. What do you think to the actual sentence?
I think it's absolutely ridiculous. 3 years, 4 months. It's absolutely ridiculous.
And what is it that he's actually been accused of?
He's being charged with violent disorder.
Did he plead guilty or not guilty?
He had to plead guilty, got told.
Who told him that?
The solicitors and his barrister. And then when he was in the custody, the police said that we'll have social services at our door and stuff.
For his best interest, it would be to plead guilty to the violent disorder, because if he didn't, the starting time was 5 years and he would have no time taken off for his guilty plea. So obviously it's Jack's fault. I'm already missing out on my daughter's Christmas, our birthday, everything. So he put his guilty plea in.
They'll try to persuade you to plead guilty because then you'll get a reduced prison sentence. Your conviction will be downgraded. Then the headlines will say, oh, look, all these people who pleaded guilty, they must be guilty. And that's not why you pleaded guilty. You pled guilty in order to avoid a lengthier sentence.
Well, it's scared everyone. I mean, nobody wanted to even go out now because of the sentences these men have been given. Like, I don't agree with the riots, the smashing the place up and everything else, but I do agree with free speech and you should be able to protest on the streets.
It's just like the post office family all over again. Plead guilty and it'll be easier for you. Innocent people suffering. These people are heroes. These people have sacrificed everything. These people are an example to each and every one of us. Actually, we have more than one problem. Our first problem is we're led by tyrants. People whose allegiance is to the World Economic Forum, not the British people. People who have large, of course. The World Economic Forum has already published their plans.
This global reset is necessary because we have seen that our policies which we pursued before the coronavirus struck us, that those policies do not create the necessary inclusion of society necessary for harmonious societal development.
We are led by full of lust for power. People who are rapidly dismantling the cultural inheritance with which we were all blessed. Freedom, equality under the law, Magna Carta, and democracy. These are people who want you to be dependent on the state so they can control you. We are led by globalists, totalitarians, and communists. This is the main problem. These tyrants are also cowards. They're driven by fear. They fear so many. More than frightened, and like any cornered animal that makes them dangerous, they lash out at their own citizens, vulnerable in... if they do. Or maybe they don't know what to do about Islam. Or perhaps they don't care that Islam is incompatible with our way of life, because these communists care little for our way of life. Regardless, for now, they cower before Islam. They leave unchallenged the masked armed gangs, the mobs, the militias that wreaked havoc on the streets, because chaos serves their purpose. It gives them a reason to act against dissent, and the dissent for now is from the British people, tweeting about the government's failures. And right now, of course, our nation is crumbling under the weight of mass migration, legal and illegal. So many men from countries and cultures that will not assimilate, cultures that teach their children to hate the West. It's out of control, and it serves the purposes of the globalists, the totalitarians, Kia and his apparatchik communists. Mass migration is part of their plan. So, to the people of the United Kingdom, I'm afraid the picture is grim. Our country is in peril. We are led by tyrants and cowards. Our borders are porous. The government is imprisoning its political opponents. That's right. We now have political prisoners. Ordinary... The freedoms our forefathers fought for, the cultural inheritance with which we were blessed, neither of these things, our freedom nor our culture, neither is guaranteed. We are only ever one generation. People fought and died to preserve our freedoms, yet Tootie Kia, his Stasi police and his political judges, with their kangaroo courts and summary justice, their failure to appoint... that shield all free-born men and women against tyrants and dictators. As Thomas Fairfax declared, holding up the Magna Carta back in the 17th century, this is what we have fought for, and by God, it must be maintained. The principle that lies at the heart of the Magna Carta is that the powers that be, they must obey the law. Equal before the law. Keir Starmer, you and your political bureau, your student union cabal of tyrants and cowards, you have failed more quickly than anyone could have predicted.
Do you think we have freedom of speech now? No, 100% not. And I think that Jack's case just shows that we do not have freedom of speech in this country anymore. You cannot say what you want anymore.
No, that's gone. I thought we might have...
To anyone and everyone.
The UK is no longer a free nation. If you do not have democratic options to express your disagreement with the government, that country is no longer the...
That is the end of all free speech. And many people still believe that if they allow the government to micromanage their lives and be their single source of truth, then things will be okay. Until one day they don't agree with their government, and they find it isn't okay because they can't speak of it. Without free speech, there is no democracy.
Tyranny will fail. Sacrifices have to be made. The courageous political prisoners already know that. Men sitting in jail right now, they know that. And this government will be held to account more quickly than they expect. The tyranny we are seeing now, it's been years in the making. Blair, Cameron, May, Johnson, Sunak, and now Starmer. They're all subjects of the world economic masters and its totalitarian agenda. Years and years. Upon us. The time is now. Each one of us must take a stand. We must build communities of resistance. We must organise politically. Conservative, Labour, Lib Dems. We must drive...
I beseech you. Resist it. Okay. Watch out for these symptoms. They're the symptoms of surrender.
While we still can.